All right, thank you for that introduction. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for the center for inviting me to speak. Like Ove mentioned, my name is Joe Pollock. I'm a PhD student at the center, and today it's my absolute pleasure to talk to you about an exciting new program I've begun with the support of the center, AIMS, and many other organizations called Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders in Marine Science, or ATSIMS for short. Over the past year, our program's grown immensely. We've now worked with nearly 100 Indigenous students spanning a 200-kilometer stretch of the Queensland coast. During a rigorous month-long program, we help these students to develop their interest, experience, and hands-on skills that they'll need to initiate and to succeed in careers in marine science. We've now run two separate iterations of this program, both within and around Townsville, but the origins of ATSIMS start about 2 years ago when I did a much smaller one-off program up in the Torres Strait Islands. I was awarded a $2,500 young science ambassador grant to work with any school in Queensland, so I decided I'd get as far away from Townsville as possible, and I headed up to Thursday Island in the Torres Strait Islands to work with a young group of Indigenous students. Now, I started this program out by taking the students down to the beach. I gave them cameras, and I basically just asked them to take photos of whatever they found to be interesting on the beach and to give me a headline they'd want to go with that photo the next day in the newspaper. The idea was to start a dialogue where I could start to teach these students what I knew about marine science. But once they started to open up, something really fascinating happened. I found out that I was learning just as much from these students, if not more, than what they were learning from me. They started telling me all of the traditional names and traditional stories about the different organisms we would find. They were telling me where they could be found and when they could be hunted. Now, I was absolutely blown away by this. I mean, this is science. They didn't realize it was science necessarily, but this is science. And as many people will know, the Queensland coast is home to about 70 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander clan groups with very deep connections to the reef, dating back tens of thousands of years. Over that length of time, these groups have developed immense wealths of experience, knowledge, and wisdom that should empower them to take control of the research and the management of their traditional sea countries, as well as to provide a very good source of nice job opportunities for these guys. But very few Indigenous Australians are currently employed within the very organizations that are charged with managing and researching these sea countries. While Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders account for about 2.5% of Australia's population, they constitute just over 1% of students entering university and less than 1/3% of staff at Australia's National Science Agency, CSIRO. Now, having just spent a week with experiencing the knowledge and the passion that these kids had, I couldn't imagine why there weren't more Indigenous people working in the realm of marine science and management. So I decided when I came back to Townsville that I wanted to get involved with more programs like this, where we were engaging with Indigenous students to work on marine science-focused projects. But I didn't find anything really quite like that going on. I mean, I had to look around. There's a bit going on, but not much. So I took it upon myself to set up and build an Indigenous marine science education program that was targeted at bridging the gap between traditional ecological knowledge and Western marine science. I pitched this idea around Townsville, and I found absolutely overwhelming support. With the support of the Center, of AIMS, of James Cook University, as well as an eager bunch of young marine scientists and local traditional owners, Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders was born. Now, as I mentioned previously, ATSIMS scholars engage in a rigorous 4-part, month-long program that's targeted at developing their skills and their interest in marine science. For the first part of our program, the ATSIMS scholars head to Reef HQ and the Museum of Tropical Queensland to see the public face of marine science. When we're at the museum, we're given unprecedented backstage access to their collections, including their Indigenous marine collections. And at Reef HQ, we get to go behind the scenes at the world's largest coral reef aquarium, and we also get to see their sea turtle hospital. Our students also work with Uncle Jim Gaston and his wife Cheryl, who are traditional owners from Bowen, who started a sea turtle tagging and tracking program. Over the past 2 decades, this monitoring program has provided valuable information on sea turtle populations and sea turtle disease dynamics, which have been instrumental in starting to form ideas about sustainable catch limits in this region. Oh, what have I done? There we go. Our next module is at the Australian Institute of Marine Science, where the students have the chance to experience the laboratory side of marine science. Here, the students work one-on-one with marine researchers working on a diverse array of topics, spanning everything from how to use coral cores to look into the past, as well as looking into the future to sort of understand what future climate change will bring to coral reefs by working at the National Ocean Sea Simulator, which is arguably the most advanced coral aquarium-based research facility in the world. Our next module, which is by far the students' favorite, I'd have to say, is where they get to take and use this knowledge they've been learning during a 5-day unforgettable field experience at Orpheus Island Research Station. Out on the island, these students get to hone their in-water skills, and they get to experience life as a researcher on a remote field station. I love that. That's Wilfred. He's the man. Out on Orpheus Island, we work with Uncle Walter Palm Island, who's a Mumbra elder who grew up on nearby Palm Island. He tells us just a wider, this guy has so much knowledge that he shares with us that's been passed down to him from his ancestors about everything, including how to use seasonal cues like which trees are in bloom to know which organisms can be safely taken from the sea. He also shared with us his concern that while younger generations still have the desire and the right to collect from the marine environment, that they've lost a lot of the wisdom and the stories that tell them how to do it in a responsible manner. Let's see, what's next? Okay, so now the idea is that we've developed these students' interest in their skills in marine science to take them to James Cook University to sort of give them an idea of what it'll take to get into marine science careers. So we expose them to a number of different career options. We do a range of different activities to help them try and identify exactly what their own personal career aspirations are. And we talk to them about what it takes to get into uni, and what it takes to succeed there, including providing information on opportunities for financial and emotional support. Now, while it's still a couple of years before our ATSIM students start to enter university, there's already compelling signs of these students' future potential for success. Since completing our program, participating schools have reported that nearly 90% of ATSIM students have improved their science marks, and that more than 50% have moved up an entire letter grade. Additionally, during the program, students' self-reported interest in attending university more than doubled. And it also seems that our students are on the right track, and they're beginning for these careers for success by choosing these rigorous science-based programs during their set planning for the coming years. Just sort of like on a more anecdotal level, I met with some of the students last week, some of the students in Townsville, and I was amazed by how many of them, during the winter break that's going on right now, are actually attending pre-university courses all around Australia. So it seems to be a really, really positive experience for these students. On a personal level, though, this program's probably been one of the most rewarding of my entire PhD. The group of students, teachers, marine researchers, and Indigenous elders we've worked with have a level of passion and enthusiasm I've rarely seen anywhere else. I think this is because we share a belief that the strengthened connections we're building between traditional knowledge and Western marine science will benefit not only the students we're working with, but the communities they come from, and ultimately the reef as a whole. Now, I want to leave you guys, it's fine to hear me talk about this, but I'd like to leave you guys with a couple of quotes from some of our ATSIMS alumni and some of the teachers that make all of this hard work that goes into this program worthwhile.
Look, this has been an absolutely wonderful opportunity for our Indigenous kids, for the students to learn a lot about sustainability in the environment, how much the environment means to us as a culture, and what it can continue being to us as a culture is just brilliant. They've had so much fun.
My favourite part would have to be snorkeling, like getting up and close to the coral and all the fish. And
I'm just standing around the touch tank and just talking about the different fishes and like what they do.
Before I came to Orpheus Island, I didn't want to know about marine science. But yeah, I think this will change my mind a bit.
Definitely, it makes me want to look at marine science more.
Yeah, it was a great experience, one of the best experiences I've had ever. I want to become a marine scientist now, yeah.
kind of makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Yeah, that's all. I'd just like to thank, this is a big program. It's taken a lot of support from a lot of people who are in this room. A lot of people have given their time, their efforts, their money, their encouragement, and their wisdom to this program. So I'd like to thank all of them, and I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming out to here.